take risks.
Yes.
So
dude.
let's let you go into that one first.
So if I'm thinking about just life, enjoying life and having a good time, if I continue to do things that are comfortable, if I continue to do things that I know are like safe and okay, I might be missing out on a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah.
Primetime example, this podcast. I could always fantasize about wanting to do a podcast and think to myself like, oh man, I'd be so good doing a podcast. But you never know until you go out and try something, and it's taking a risk. You know what I mean? Like, we're putting ourselves out on the internet.
Right.
We're putting ourselves and our opinions and how we feel about things on the internet up for praise, but also ridicule.
Right.
So we're taking a risk by doing that. And we could have very easily both been sitting in our lives and said, nah, you know what I mean? I'll spend that time doing something else, or I don't feel like doing that. But we're taking a risk by doing that. I even, took a big risk from living over, working a full-time job, making X amount of money over on like I don't know if people outside of Maryland will understand this, but we call it the Eastern Shore and the Western Shore.
Right.
But on the Western Shore and saying like, you know what, I'm just going to stop all that just so I can go back home, spend more time with my family, help out with certain things, and, completely take a different path. And I'm not saying, well, hold on, let me clarify real quick. I've enjoyed it. You know what I mean? I've enjoyed that risk that I took. I could have kept doing the same thing, the thing that I knew was safe to do. I knew, hey, I'm going to make X amount of money each week. I'll be able to live in this nice of an apartment, afford this nice of things. And I was like, you know what? Like, that's cool, but it only made me so happy. So I wanted to do something that I thought would bring more actual value to my life, being around friends and family and loved ones.
Yep.
And there's going to be instances where people take risks and they hate it. However, you're never going to know until you try.
Right.
So I would encourage people to take a risk, man, big or small.
Right. Absolutely. Take small steps, baby steps if you need to, but those risks are important to take. And, take calculated risk, I think is a really good thing. Saying so you've done your research, this might be a little bit of a risk, but you have an idea that this might work, right? It's not a 0% chance of success.
Yeah.
Like me right now, I'm going to go try out for the Warriors, right? Like I'm not going to make it, right? So like that's a 0% risk right there because I'm not going to make it. But if I say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go maybe play piano at this restaurant, right? Sure. I know how to play piano, right?
Sure.
So I could do that. That's a little bit of a risk because I don't really like playing in front of other people. I have done it. I did it for about 1.5 years, actually.
Yeah.
But it's always been stressful for me, right? And I don't love doing it. But it's something that's a calculated risk to an extent because I have that skill. I can do it. Things like that. And stepping outside of your comfort zone a lot of times is really important because a lot of times we can get in our own isolated bubble, right? We can get in our bubble and we don't leave that because it's safe, it's cozy, it's comfortable, right? But we can step outside of that and we can take those risks and make us grow. So I can just say from my YouTube experience, I've been on YouTube for 4 years now, a little under.
Yeah.
So I started in May of 2016. So that'd be about 4 years,
Yeah.
right? And
Coming
I started
up
just wanting to do movie reviews, and I've done collectible reviews and other things like that. And, I did take a risk because I had the skills, kind of like you, Nick. I mean, I had the skills where I had editing and camera stuff because I did photography. So I had the camera. I went out and bought the gear I needed in terms of lighting, equipment, and stuff like that.
Yep.
Took a risk on myself and said, hey, I want to start making videos. I want to put my voice out there for movies and collectibles, right? I want to do that. So I took that risk and I feel like it's been very rewarding for me. I mean, it's not always successful because, even now I might post a video, right? I might get 40 views on it, right? To some people, that's a lot. To me, if I have 2,500 subscribers, I'm not necessarily satisfied with that. But it does happen. And you're going to get bumps in the road a lot, right? And sometimes people are going to value what you have to say and sometimes they're going to hate what you have to say. So I've gotten plenty of reviews where people hate me. So, and it happens, right? But it's a risk that you take because it's something in pursuit of something greater, right? It's pursuit of self-fulfillment and self-growth. And, stepping outside of your comfort zone and providing something of value to others that you think you have to offer.
Yeah, and then also just from a personal standpoint, like it's to avoid having those regrets as well.
Right.
That's something that I think about. And it's so cliche, but you hear like well, I don't know if I've actually heard this happen or if I've like heard secondhand, but like older people saying like, oh, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done this. If I could go back and change anything. That's like a regret where it's like, oh, I wish I would have taken more chances. And I would say now to anybody, I mean, honestly, of any age, like if you're thinking about doing something, give it a try. Like Will said, calculated. Don't completely ruin your life off of something. And there's different levels of that depending on the person and so on and so forth. But don't have that regret, man. You want to try that new restaurant, go do it. You want to ask that girl out or that guy out, go do it. You want to play piano at a restaurant and try to do some performance in front of people, go do it. And you'll find out quickly whether like, okay, that was cool. I enjoyed that and now
Right.
I want to do more of it, or holy shit, that went awful, but at least you know. You know what I mean?
But
Now
definitely
you know,
take
you
your
know.
time though, to an extent. Like don't start playing piano for a month and then say I want to go play out. You know what I mean? Like definitely take your time with it, and because you got to set yourself up for success. So you want to take risk, but not low percentage risk. You know, you want to take some risks that you think might have a good chance. You can take some low percentage risks. Let's say I want to move to Hollywood and become an actor, but
Sure.
maybe I don't. If I have an acting background, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But if I don't, then I'm not going to do that, right? So I think that's what that ties into, really, just knowing yourself and not taking dumb risks, for lack of a better term, taking some risks that have at least some chance of success.
Dude, I would even argue with you a little bit on that to say,
Yeah.
like, even in the example so don't like play piano for a month and then go try to perform. Even if you did, you would then find out, hopefully, that holy smokes, I need to practice more. You know what I
Right.
mean? It would teach you something.
Well, I can just tell you, I mean, unless you're like really, really talented, if you've been playing for a month, you're not ready. I mean,
You're
I
like
can just-
barely playing with like two
Right.
fingers.
So like, I mean, you're just not, because like, unless you're just, I mean, there are exceptions to that. Like I said, I'm not the world's most talented musician. I can only talk about my own progress and what I've seen. And my teacher always told me that I made faster progress than anyone she's ever taught. And that was not because I was Liberace. It was because I practiced so much. Like I practiced 2 hours regimented every day.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I got good fast. I was probably pretty good in like 7 to 8 months.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know if I was ready to play out then, because also too, you gotta, like when I used to play out at restaurants,
Uh-huh.
I had to fill 4 hours of time. 4
Dude,
hours.
that's a lot
You
of
know how many
songs.
songs you have to play? Like I took maybe about a 45-minute break in there somewhere, but say still 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
3 hours worth of material. I had about 45 to 50 songs memorized that I played. So in
Oh
a
my
month,
gosh.
you just can't do that. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's not, a lot of people use sheet music. I use sheet music to read it, but then I would memorize the song and then I wouldn't really use it to play the song.
I feel like that's better anyway because you actually feel the song
Right.
when you're playing
But
it.
a lot of people though don't do that because memorizing the songs takes a lot of time. But for me, I had to practice them for so long they just became muscle memory.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like I
good.
knew how to play. I had to I practiced so many times to get it right. After a while, I could just play it. So, but yeah, so like something like that, like where it takes, like say I started playing tennis 2 months ago. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't want to go try out, for professional tennis because I'm probably not ready yet. You know what I mean? Something like that.
It would give you a realistic viewpoint though of where you stand,
But you also don't want to like set yourself up for failure. You know what I
especially if
mean?
maybe you have to pay for the tryout. It's like
Right,
a $2,000 tryout or something like that. It's like, oh shit,
I
I'm
think
about to
it's
be down
good
a
to
couple
use
grand.
good judgment to be like, hey, and say you've been dating someone for a month, right?
Sure.
I really like this girl. I'm not going to ask her to marry me, even though I might want to because I really like, because you're in the honeymoon phase. That's a
That's-
risk. And that's a low percentage risk, because 3 months from now, you'd be like, wow, she's not as sane or as cool as I thought she was.
Holy
Right?
shit, she went crazy 5 weeks deep. Why did I ask her
Right.
at 4?
Right. See, that's the thing, right? So things like that, like clearly use good judgment.
Yeah.
There are exceptions to every rule, it's to an extent, but yeah,
For sure.
that's what I would say. Just a caveat there.
Yeah.
Yeah.